So my number three movie that shaped my work ethic is Bridge of Spies from 2015, directed by up-and-comer Steven Spielberg, starring another up-and-comer Tom Hanks and the legend Mark Rylance, Helen Alda, Amy Ryan, a few other folks. Quick log line on this. During the Cold War, an American lawyer is recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy in court and then help the CIA facilitate an exchange of the spy for the Soviet captured American U-2 spy plane pilot Francis Gary Powers. So I put this movie on my list because to me, this movie exemplifies just the empathy and dignity and decency that you show up with, or you should be showing up with when you work with people. And I think Tom Hanks's character's Donovan sort of is what exemplifies that. Like he's basically put to run this trial for the Soviet spy, and everybody around him, including his own family, is all about, yeah, this is a, check the box thing just so we can show everybody that this person got a free trial. But we've already made up our mind that this person is a spy and should basically be treated horribly, and the decision is already made. So the trial is of no meaning. But this guy, Donovan, Tom Hanks's character, is all about, number one, about the books and the rules. Like it's to him, it's all about that. Number two, he takes his job very seriously. Like you have to show up and do the best no matter what. And I think that's what requires like an incredible amount of just decency and commitment to the work you do, but also a great deal of empathy, like this is a time of Cold War,
Right.
It's hard to even imagine. Like I can't point fingers at the other people other than Tom Hanks's character in the movie, because the whole world is totally succumbed by what is happening. So to stand up against that and almost extend like an empathetic arm to understand who this person is as a human, and then go about your business and kind of put your own life in danger to a great degree, that takes a lot of courage. So that's why this movie is on my list. And the last thing I'll mention is the tact of negotiation, which I am not very good at. This is a masterclass in that as well. Like, how do you negotiate peacefully, calmly, with clarity, with authority, without hoodwinking anybody, decency, dignity? It's just a masterclass at that too. So yeah, that's why this movie is on my list. Had you watched this before? And if so, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I'd seen it in the theater. I see all the Spielberg films when they come out. I actually hadn't seen it since then, so it was nice to revisit it. I enjoyed the movie when I saw it, and think it's a sort of solid down the road, like middle kind of tier Spielberg. It was really interesting too, like thinking about it through this work ethic lens for this podcast. I actually really, enjoyed that mindset when I approached the film. I think, Tom Hanks's character, there's sort of an ideal that he is upholding for himself of like what he believes is, what actually believes. It is the law. And that is what his ultimate goal is, like adhering to that law, that institution, and doing whatever he can, even at his not only putting himself in harm, but, there's a scene in the movie, even though this didn't happen in real life, where his family becomes under attack, where someone's shooting into his house. So he's putting into jeopardy people he cares about, himself, his career, all these things for, in his view, the right reason, to give this gentleman a fair trial as necessitated by the laws of the United States. And then when he has to go over to East Germany, negotiate in good faith. It's always in good faith, because that is what is driving him. And it was actually interesting thinking about this with work ethic. I was started to see this as a movie that there's kind of like three different people that you can classify as people with jobs, right? There's Tom Hanks, whose job is a lawyer, but his goal is he wants to uphold these institutions, and that is what drives him. And then we have the spy, whose job is a spy, and he is breaking the rules because you have to as a spy. But what motivates him is his ideals. Like, he does believe this is right. He believes, he should go to the United States and try to recruit other communists because he believes in, the tenets of communism, and that's what he holds dear. And he is very good at his job. Like, he doesn't rat anyone out. He's super calm when he's caught getting interrogated. Like, he's like, hey, look, like, I'm not, in the same way that Tom Hanks is, he's not under pressure for anything because he has something that he holds dear to himself, which is, the communist ideals and way of life. And then you have Gary Powers, who is this soldier who gets shot down over Russia spying on the Soviets, who I think is a total coward. Like there's a whole scene where, like, if you get caught, you have to kill yourself. And he doesn't do that. And he fails at his mission. He gets caught. He potentially divulges information. Like, he does everything wrong. And sort of, I was viewing that scene, especially where there was a great scene where it's like a juxtaposition between Tom Hanks talking about giving some speech about, oh, we can't be cowardice, against Gary Powers getting all these, like, this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And then when he's put in any moment of crisis or test, he fails on every level. And is, in my mind, in a way, you could argue a traitor, because he did not take that cyanide pill as he was supposed to do. He let the plane get in hands of the Soviets. All these things went wrong. The movie, when I was viewing it through this lens, was almost a juxtaposition between these three types of work ethic, and one of the people completely didn't really have much of anyone at all. Like, you just got a sense he was this himbo guy. He looked like a good looking guy. He didn't really do this for any sense of country, or else he would have taken that cyanide pill, or any larger ideals, like the spy that was caught, Mark Rylance's character, who was very calm and wasn't afraid, and because he believed in his ideals. I just thought that was really interesting. I never had viewed the film like that before until viewing it through this work ethic lens. I don't know if that came across to you when you were looking at it.
Sort of, but not entirely. Like, I don't really view Mike Rylance's character, the spy, as sort of upholding to, like, what's his driving force is essentially being communist ideals. Maybe because he's doing it, but it's not really referenced in the movie at all. Like, the only thing I could really kind of latch onto was that he's doing this to protect his family, and sort of got kind of stuck in this to do that. He's very good at it, but I don't think he has any emotional attachment to the work that he's doing. He's not there for, the victory of the communist rule or what have you. Like, he's not elated to go back, when he's finally back there. So I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of those principles, but to me, his work ethic is, he's very good at it, but he's detached. And he's doing it for a totally different reason. The Gary Powers part is interesting. Now, when you say it, I guess one could look at it from that point of view. But see, that's the thing. Like, to me, what Tom Hanks represents is, it doesn't matter if you're a coward or no. It doesn't matter if you're on the opposite side of enemy lines and doing what you're doing. Ultimately, we're all just people. And that's the message I always take away from this, that we're often at work saddled to work with people who are opposite in thinking and approach from us, people that are quite difficult to work with, and maybe I'm difficult to work with for them, because based on how they approach things. And ultimately, you can't get in the way, because number one, you have to, I think, abide by the rule book. In this movie, it's the law. In a case of a work situation, it's, what are our goals? What are we striving for? What is the mission of the company? And then you have to really talk through as humans and figure out, okay, how do we problem solve, and how do we get there? And in that process, sort of look at each other with decency and compassion. And it doesn't mean you'll always agree,
right?
But you uphold to those values, essentially. I think that's what the movie to me is about. But yeah, it is very interesting that the work ethic of these three men, but also all the other people, Alan Adler's character, all the people that Tom Hanks meets in Berlin, like, they're all sort of striving for their own causes, and they have their own ways of working. So it's a very interesting lens, like you said, to kind of look at every character as to what is their work ethic.
Right. And what motivates them.
What motivates
to your point. Yeah. And maybe as someone who's personally doesn't like rules and doesn't believe in them necessarily, like the Tom Hanks mindset of just like the liberal worship of institutions is something I don't give a lot of credence to. I'm more respectful of the people that just have values and ideals separate from institutions. Like, you get a sense that if Tom Hanks wouldn't break the law to do something he felt was right, he just believes the law is right, and he will enforce the law because he believes it's right. I don't really get a lot of respect to those people as much as I do people that are like, look, the law is a law, but if I'm not believing in it, like, again, what Mark Rylance is doing, which he is breaking the law, like, spies are illegal. Like, he's an unregistered Soviet agent in the United States. So he's obviously the United States is going to arrest him. But I know I'd get the sense that if he's doing that and he wasn't, I'm talking about Mike Rylance's character here, who's the spy. If he wasn't divulging that information, maybe this is me reading too much into it. Like I would assume there's something higher that that is motivating him. Again, in comparison with Gary Powers, who does everything wrong. Clearly, there isn't anything higher power than motivating other than just his own self-survival. Like he caring just about his own. Like he's very selfish in that act, instead of the selfless soldier that he was told to be during all those training montage essentially, where they're giving him the cyanide pill and they're telling him to do this, and you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, and all of that stuff happens to him, and then they have to go and obviously bring him back, and then of course we have to say he's a hero and all these things, and this was a real person, so that's exactly what happened before he died in a crash. I think maybe like 20 years after this helicopter crash. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it on paper, it's like, well, this should have killed himself. So his motivations were selfish, I guess is what I should say. And I think I respect both of Tom Hanks's motivations of respect to the rules, and where I viewed Mark Rylance of respect for his own, ideals and what he felt was right, even if others didn't. I think I just respect those types of motivations more than a selfish one, which I had never looked at this movie like that before. And I found it more interesting, actually, this work ethic lens. So I love that you brought this one to the podcast for this reason than I remembered when I first saw it, when it was in theaters 5-6 years ago. But yeah. It's a great film. I think Tom Hanks does his Tom Hanks job of playing a fantastic everyday man with a set of ideals. And this is Mark Rylance's breakout role. And I think he did a great job in this, though. Now, having seen him do a lot of similar things since then, it is not as impactful as it was when I first saw this. Like Mark Rylance almost stole the movie for me. And now I'm like, it's his thing that he does, and he did it after this. But I do enjoy this film for sure, especially through this lens. I thought it was super interesting.
Yeah. No, I loved it when I saw it the first time, and I've actually watched it many times since.
Oh, cool.
To me, this is not a mid-tier Spielberg movie. It's actually, over time, I think this movie will only grow in estimation. Obviously, all the departments, like all Spielberg movies, are 10 on 10. But I think there is some, I don't know, deeper soulfulness to this movie in its quietness and its boldness, and a movie that can easily become very showy, with like big monologues about patriotism and work and what have you. But it's actually very quiet. It's sort of, it lets these people and their predicament and their interactions do the talking.
Yes.
None of this is spelled out for you. Tom Hanks doesn't have a monologue about that. I will stand by the rules and do the right thing. No, he just does it. There's humanity in all of that, which is kind of amazing. And just like the little, human touches of, he's in Berlin, he gets his coat stolen, so he has a cold, and
right.
And that's sort of carrying on. Or when he comes back after this amazing, heroic, life affirming and life changing journey, he just falls flat on the bed.
The endings, I like that too a lot.
It's just like normal human things, which are kind of amazing in this movie. And I have to give a shout out to Tom Hanks, because I think it's so easy, like you said, to just take this for granted, right? It's Tom Hanks being Tom Hanks again. But this performance is so difficult, I think. I don't think anybody else can pull this off, because
agreed.
You would sort of be like, oh, why are you doing this? Like, but because it's not just about the rule book. I would not reduce it to that. I think that's just a part of it. Maybe that's priority number 5, I think, the way I read it. To me, this is more about just human decency. And who else better than Tom Hanks to kind of portray that on screen, I think, and do it credibly? Because it's not about the rules. They don't sustain, actually. You have to look the person in the eye and see. And when the friendship, sort of, within quotes, that Rylance and Tom Hanks
develop,
form in the movie, that's where the meat is at, right? It's not about the rules. It's about how sort of unfettered Rylance is in this situation. Like, he's not letting go of his humanity and decency either. Like, he could be, up to all sorts of shenanigans and causing chaos and what have you. No, except he's like totally calm, and they're both very good at their jobs, and that's what bonds them. I think that's the other thing, that at work, we meet people who are very different from us, but you can appreciate somebody who's good at what they do, provided they're approaching it with decency and dignity, and you can appreciate that. You can just bond with them on that aspect. So I love that piece as well. So
Yeah, it's almost like a coworker relationship. That's
exactly
true. I mean, they're only they're bonding over the work essentially of this negotiation and the trial and everything like that, and that there's nothing beyond that, but there is a little bit too, and that's I feel like that definitely happens with people that you're only like your work comrades. And I will say when I said Tom Hanks is doing his Tom Hanks thing, it wasn't meant to be like a dig at him. I think you're right. No one else could have done this part. And that's what Tom Hanks is so good at, being able to do this thing and bring this everyman quality to this character, which, we had an episode on historical figures and things, and this movie is not accurate in that sense. And this person was a CIA guy for a while and did all these things. So he wasn't really an everyday man. I think they play that part up a lot, and casting Tom Hanks does that too. But I think from what the movie's trying to say, they needed to have him be just this humble insurance guy instead of someone who was there at the CIA's founding and did all this legal work with the Nuremberg trials. Like, the reason why he was picked wasn't because he was just a normal guy, but I think Tom Hanks' normal guy qualities you need for this movie. And another thing I love about that ending scene too, when he comes back and just sort of like collapses on the bed and he's tired, and then also that scene in the train in the end, that he's not doing any of this for any fame or recognition at all from anyone else. Like, it's not like he's coming back, he's like, oh, look at all this stuff, yay, look what I did, wife and kids, this is I'm a hero, or wants the adoration on the train when that woman looks over to him, just acknowledges him. That's he's doing it for himself and for these, again, this institution and these the rules and ideals that he has. And that also is an honorable thing too. He's not trying to get credit, he's not trying to get a promotion, he's not trying to
it's not
parlay this into anything. He's doing it because he believes it's the right thing to do, and that's what it is.
More than the rule book, it's the right thing to do. It's the human thing to do. And it doesn't, I mean, yeah, sure, that person was a coward, you can call him that, but he's also just a child on a, that's how I look at it.
He signed up for it. He could have quit at any time. I give Diggory Powers no.
I know. I have empathy for that too. I'm like, sure. I mean, you made a mistake, but you should come back, I think, like, why would I just leave you there?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the guy should have taken the cyanide pill. I mean, obviously when he's caught, we have to get our guys back, but even when they're total cowards and failures. But I'm just saying, like, if you sign up for a top secret mission and you care about this country and protecting the United States, you kill yourself and don't and trash the plane. But anyway, that's my anti-Gary Powers rant. Hey, look, you signed up for it. Look, we need, I want to make sure that if we have spies out there, I'm sure right now, maybe listening to this podcast, that I want that, if they are volunteering and doing this, they're doing this to protect the country. And part of that is sacrificing your own life if need be to put that over the country. And if he's not willing to do that, I'll call him a coward. It's fine.
Hey, spies, Alex is coming after you. So beware.
No, I just want you to take the cyanide pill. That's all. Spies, take the cyanide pill if you have to, because, our country's more important than your life. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.